Good evening, everyone. Please come to order. The December 2nd regular City Council meeting of the City of Bel Air Beach is now in session. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Robin Aki. Here. Councilmember Mark Beam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Gaddis.
Here.
Councilmember Jody Shirley.
Here.
Councilmember Rita Swope.
Here.
Vice Mayor Glenn Gunn.
Here.
Mayor Joseph Manzo.
Here.
City Manager Lynn Reeves.
Here.
City Attorney Fred Riley.
Here.
First item of business is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion? Second? Anyone? Second. Any discussion? Yes.
I would like to remove number 5 from the consent agenda, and I would like to place it in the regular agenda. And if we could, I'd like to give it a high priority in the list and not take it to the bottom, because we do have a lot of people in the room. I think it's a worthy agenda item.
The only thing I would say with that, well, first off, I'm going to have some adjustments also, so maybe we can have one set of amendments and vote on the whole thing. The only point I'd like to make is we have several individuals who came here to speak on their own behalf, or maybe others' behalf, for the Charter Review Committee, and I know at least one person said they had to leave, so I don't want to keep them too late, because we have that there, so maybe we can figure out a good place to purchase. Okay. I had 2 items on number 11. As consideration of the resolution, this is actually for the charter review, and it's incorrect against the resolution. The description says City Council ballot vote for 2 and committee members 1 resident alternate. That should read up to 2 and up to 1, and it is a huge difference. You do not have to vote for 2, you don't have to vote for 1, you don't have to vote for any. That's the way the resolution reads. So that needs to be amended, absolutely. The other thing is, so that's one error that we have, and again, maybe we could just have one global thing to correct all of this. And then we're missing the Parks and Recreation Board report. It was supposed to be a monthly report through their December activity. There was a December activity scheduled for the 7th, so I know the Parks Chairman is here, she wants to speak. And also the Planning Board was supposed to report on a monthly basis starting this month, and I don't see that on here either. So I don't really care where we put those reports in, but they should be here. I think they're brief reports, both of them. That's all I had. Anything else? Somebody would you look good at it? And it maybe to, I can't make a motion to change it, so we'll just make one global motion here to change everything, if everyone's in agreement, and we'll get a second.
So, what do you
Just
think?
for the amendment only?
Yes.
Okay, so you're moving.
So I would like to amend tonight's agenda, the regular agenda portion, and I would like to place the number 5 to yes, I want to move number 5 to
Can't we just take it off the consent agenda and leave it as number 5? That keeps it forward.
5 to 5, and how about the stuff I brought up?
Can you state?
But you have to make, I'm not allowed to put in a motion, so you have to bring this part of your motion if you want to change it.
So I'd like to then further amend the motion to include the vote for resolution 2019, election of members, to item 6. So it's early in the meeting.
Okay. How about the change for bringing it up to 2 and then up to 1 to bring it in to agreement with our
That have
resolution?
to discuss at the same time or,
We might as well change it all at once, we didn't just go on at once.
right, it would be part of the discussion.
Yes, it's up to 2, yeah, it's up to 2. And then the last thing is the,
We'll vote on that when we have the discussion about the resolution, correct?
well, when we do the election of individuals, we'll elect up to 2, but, maybe you look at the chart of people, I mean, there's some really talented people here, but I think we'll elect 2 tonight, but somebody may look at it and say, I don't like anybody here, so you don't have to vote for anyone. It's up to 2, and it's up to 1 alternate. but I expect that.
And can I get clarification on it? Are we talking about this now, or are we talking about it when we go?
No, we're just trying to get the agenda set so that, we'll talk about it. You're moving it to number,
I'm moving it to
six.
number
yeah,
six.
5.5.
And everything will rotate down.
That's correct.
Okay.
So we're gonna, so then we'll change the up to 2 to correct it. I mean, again, this is to make it match our resolution. And then Parks Board and the Planning Board reports, they can be
I would
later.
say let's put them at, the very end.
Number 11 maybe?
Yeah.
We got it, okay. So that's, we have a motion. We have a second to that. Let's just make it official.
Second.
Okay, we have any further discussion? All in favor of the amendment now? This is just to amend it, and then if we accept the amendment, then we will adopt the agenda. So the amendments as proposed by Vice Mayor Gunn and Councilmember Shirley. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No one's opposed, it passes unanimously. The amendment is now on the table. Everyone in favor of passing the agenda as amended? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. So if I have this correct, the number 5 is staying, it's just no longer a consent agenda, and we're moving number 11 up to 5.5. Taking 11's place will be the reports. I hope I can read my writing. If I go out of line, please somebody just make sure we get this correct. Okay? So that's the agenda, it's approved. We now go to the citizens' comments. Ladies and gentlemen, in front, yes, I know Mr. Davis, I have a card, you're going to be up first. There is a code of conduct that is on that podium. It's on that table. It's in front of each one of us. It's our responsibility to make sure that these meetings are held with proper decorum. So please come up. You're welcome to speak, but please follow that code of conduct and everybody will have a happy holiday. Mr. Davis, you have put a card in, so you're going to have you first and then anyone after that.
Good evening, council and staff. My name is Rudy Davis, and I live at 612 Belle Isle Avenue. I read the police report from the incident following the November council meeting, and I was appalled at the threats of violence, the profane language used, and the disparaging remarks that were made about law enforcement that endangers our relationship with the very people that protect our citizens. This is inexcusable behavior for anyone that represents our city. Therefore, I am asking for the immediate resignation of Mr. Manzo as the mayor of Bel Air Beach. Thank you.
I'll give you an immediate response, Mr. Davis. No. Let's move on. Council doesn't approve that, Mr. Davis. You're done with your time. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi everyone, my name is Fritz Will, 905 Harbor Drive. I'd like to know from the mayor what's the best way to get into contact with you if I have a question.
Later tonight, I'm going to unfortunately have to make an announcement regarding email. That will not be a good way to get me in the future. There's a telephone number at City Hall. Please call them, leave a brief message with them. They will get in contact with me, and in the future, you'll be able to write a letter directly to me at City Hall. Okay? After tonight, I'll tell you now, I'm not going to be using emails anymore, and I'll explain that in detail why. But you can call me that way. You also can see me after any council meeting or before any council meeting. And let me know, I'll be more than happy to come here and speak with you. I have only one rule, and the rule is a simple one. We both treat each other with respect.
Of course.
And as long as you want to have a conversation with me, I look forward to trying to help you out however I can. Understand that, contrary to some belief, I don't run the city. City manager manages the day-to-day functions. But if there's something that needs to be discussed, I'll be more than happy to get it to him or get him involved if necessary.
Okay, it's too bad I had to come down here to find this answer because I sent you 2 emails that were not answered. So I felt free to email Mr. Lynn Rives, and I got a response right away, and he was very helpful.
I don't recall seeing your email, so I'll just let you know that. I don't know where you sent it to, but
That's
I have
even
two
worse.
so-
That's even worse.
it is scary. Yeah, it's not the first time. But anyway, get in touch with me. Thank you. Anyone else? Citizen comments then are closed. The next is the presentation from the Pinellas County Sheriff.
Good evening. 4 For the month of October, it was a fairly quiet month, I'd like to say. There were no UCR Part 1 crimes in which we need to speak. And in regards to any arrests made within the city, there were a total of 2 arrests. One was for a violation of probation, and the other was a driving under the influence, which also resulted in the arrest of the driver for a suspended license. During the month of October, we also had 802 events in which deputies responded, resulting in a total of 930 units that responded to those events. Again, as was explained last month, or earlier this month by Lieutenant Byrd, the number of units responding just might mean that deputies assigned themselves to the call and then may have gotten available after that. It ranges anywhere from house checks, which led the activity, all the way down to 2 crashes that occurred within the city. And that is all I have. If you have any questions.
Sheriff, I had 2 things, actually. We were going to start including the code reports, and I know you don't do code, but do you know where we're at with that? Because I don't see code report at all this time.
I don't have any information on the code report. I can send an email to Deputy Doherty and see if that can be included for the monthly meetings. And if he doesn't come to those, then I'll be more than happy to provide that information.
He doesn't have to come. I mean, just that we normally get them on our desk, which right when we come in, and it really doesn't facilitate a good review before the meetings. So what I asked for last time, and the city manager agreed, was that we're going to try and do it. The only problem that we have sometimes is, like, this is a good example, it's December 2nd. It doesn't have to be a full 30 or 31 day month. I don't mind. We're not really tracking this by month. So if he needs to cut it off a couple days early so that we can get the report in time, that's fine too. You know, so like if you want to cut it as of next Wednesday, it's okay to have kind of a timing difference going from month to month, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, I'll get with Deputy Doherty and whoever else I may need to get that information out.
Okay, that's it.
Mayor?
Yes.
It's in tab 12.
It's in tab 12, okay?
In your book.
And may I ask a quick question? I noticed on the October report we had ordinance violation, so I assume that's probably the code. That's probably, it's on there. But then the second thing is, I noticed we had both vessels stopped. I've never seen that on our report. Is that something new? You're patrolling our waterways now, or?
We've always been patrolling the waterways. I was assigned to the Marine Unit back in 2002, and the Marine Unit covers all the way down from the Sunshine Skyway Bridge all the way up to the Anclote River. So it just depends on where the vessel stop took place, and it might have been in the waters at Bel Air Beach, but we have always had a Marine Unit that patrols this area.
Okay, it's never been on our report, so all of a sudden we have 7 of them. It caught my eye, so that's why I'm asking about it. So if they're stopped in Bel Air Beach, then that's when it hits our report.
Correct.
Okay.
Sure, if I did have another, well, first off, we don't need the code report. Apparently it's under number 12, which in my book is listed as city attorney. So it's certainly not the city attorney, and that's why I got overlooked, but my apologies. We'll take a look at that and get it reviewed. I think we should tab that or have that up with police report where, you know, where it would make sense. Thank you. I'm speaking to the city manager now. I see signs around our city, and when I went to the active shooter presentation, one of the pamphlets that I saw dealt with the citizen crime watch or neighborhood watch, and I see signs. I have a sign in front of my own house. I don't know what it is. I mean, I know what the program is, but I don't know how it's being administered in the city and what's actually happening with this. I don't know if it's a city function or just a group of concerned citizens or how it's working. But do you have any information on that?
I do not. If it's a sign that's been installed by the city or the county, then I would imagine that the citizens have gone through the proper channels with the sheriff's office to have that sign installed, and then I would imagine, just like any other community where it's a citizen watch program, it's nothing more than concerned citizens that have grouped together and basically keeping an eye on the community and then calling us if there's any arise that needs law enforcement presence. However, I can reach out to somebody at the agency and find out if there's any more information that I can provide at the next meeting.
That would be great. I know it's there. I don't know how it's being administered in our city, what it's actually doing. I mean, I know what I read the report, and I know Sheriff Coltieri has an actual group that comes out, I think, and makes presentations with citizens and stuff. But if it's part of our city, then it's something that we should probably let people know about, and making sure everyone's involved with it, or I don't know who's involved with it, to tell you the truth. I see the signs, and certainly everybody, I think, is keeping a good eye on crime. Since we got a 0 for the month, that's about as good as you're ever going to do. But I just want to make sure. So yeah, when you have a chance.
Mayor, can I say something? Is that Martha Vasquez is actually heads up that group and met with the sheriff. They came out to their presentation, and she's supposed to be organizing residents, but I don't know how much. I don't think it's very active. It's not quite.
Any information you can get us, maybe we can get a little more activity or participation in it, would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Well-
Great job, 0. Doesn't get any better than
Maybe
that.
better.
Excellent. Okay, now number 4. This is the second hearing on this, and it's a long one, so I'm going to read it. And it's consideration of ordinance 1901, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, providing for a fee for the issuance of Bel Air Beach easement parking decals, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for the amendment of section 38-108 of the City Code of Ordinances relating to property owner decal, providing for the amendment of section 38-109 of the City Code of Ordinances relating to renter decals, providing for the amendment of section 38-111B of the City Code of Ordinances relating to parking decal fees, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This is the second reading. Do I have a motion?
So,
Second.
Do you have any discussion on that? No discussion from council, any discussion from citizens? No discussion from citizens. This is a resolution, or an ordinance, so we go to a vote. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Aki? Aye. Councilmember Dean?
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis?
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley?
aye.
Councilmember Swope?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn?
Aye.
Mayor Danzo?
Aye, it passes 7-0. This immediately takes effect. Actually, it'll start with January 1st with the decal, so it's like a $5 fee now to get the decal. Other than that, pretty much everything stays pretty much the same. City manager will...
Plus tax, $5 plus tax.
I didn't know about tax. Okay, it'll be an extra, 35 cents, okay, so $5.35. State of Florida. Okay, so we're now finished with the public hearing part, and now we're going into our regular agenda. And we moved number 5 into that regular agenda. So this is to authorize the city manager to execute the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant agreement. The description on that is request the city council, should probably say to authorize the city manager to execute the 2018-2019 LWCF agreement for improvements of Bayside Park. Do we have a motion?
I have a motion to amend.
Okay.
I would like to amend that to read, delay the authorization of the city manager to execute this grant agreement pending a recommendation from the finance committee.
May I make a suggestion? Let's get the item in as a regular item, and then we can table it, or we can put it for consideration at a later point if that's where everybody wants to go with it. But at least get this motion in front so that the city manager at least explain this, because as I was reading this, I wasn't quite sure if we were giving him the authorization to go forward, and I know we didn't put this money in the budget, or, if it's just something he has to sign to make sure the government is aware that we can accept it.
To save the comments for discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion to bring do we have a motion?
Let's move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, now we're open for discussion. Vice Mayor.
The timing of this thing is kind of interesting. I think it's the very last one, and it's in the meeting minutes, that, hey, we had a 14% return into our reserve account, and at the same time, we had approval for this grant. So, conspiracy theories aside, let me back up just a little bit. We still haven't had any accounting of that 14%, the large chunk of money that was returned to the reserve fund to try to understand what monies or what project were reprogrammed, and I think that's a vital missing step in this thing. There's a lot of missing steps, and I'll take us back a little bit down memory road here. This is an article by Wayne Ayers, December 5th, 2018, when we were discussing this issue, this very issue. Of course, former council member Wanda Schwer said, hey, I've talked to a lot of people who use it, and I think it would be very beneficial to improve it. The past mayor, Notaro, said she heard from a lot of people. I use the park all the time, my kids go there, people want that park, Notaro said. But Vice Mayor Glenn Gunn, and here I sit still, said $200,000 is a lot of money to spend and the city has other capital improvement priorities. I said at that time that the city is just beginning a discussion of strategic planning and does not yet have a policy in place for evaluating and prioritizing capital improvement projects. I recommended at that time that any decision about improving Bayside Park be put off until we understand what the priorities are and can make an informed decision. Councilmember Jody Shirley said the city has other priorities that are higher than improving a park. We have so much deferred maintenance on our infrastructure, our roadways are falling apart, we have flooding, and we are concerned about spending money on the park. A future mayor at that time also was concerned about this, although he was supported the grant and pursuing the money. He did raise a valid issue, which is it scalable? We don't necessarily have to spend $200,000, but we need to possibly go through and prioritize the list. So far as these missing steps go, well, we now have a strategic plan and we have a way of sifting through the priorities of the capital improvement. We now have an evaluation tool. The city manager and I have developed a matrix that looks at funding, it looks at the priorities, it looks at the cost, it looks at all of that stuff. The missing pieces of this puzzle are, there are still some specificity missing in the capital improvement project. We're starting to get a handle on stormwater, which is a major contributor to our backlog in infrastructure improvements. And we are just now starting to get our arms around how to evaluate the street conditions, so far as cracks go, flooding, all the patchwork goes. We haven't had any real major improvements there, and it is a huge portion of the infrastructure improvement. I think just one line item I saw for all the out years is $700,000, and that doesn't include the bridges and maintaining those bridges. The council has never sat down as a body and gone through the capital improvement projects to prioritize them against the strategic plan, against the capital improvement matrix. So that's a very important piece that's missing here. Back in 2018, we said, let's go after the grants. Let's see if we can do that and how that's going to work. There are still a lot of missing pieces here. We need to figure out, there's an expiration date on this thing. I think the city manager can probably fill us in on some of that stuff. We can go through and look at cherry picking the project and see if there's just particular parts of it that we want. We have never, and it was asked for at the time, evaluated what the recurring costs are in the out years. After we get the grant money, after we obligate our money, we do these things, but there's no follow-on money in this grant for this stuff. So, if we build restrooms, if we build a fishing dock or pier, in the out years, it's going to cost the city money to maintain those things. And I'm not sure we have a good idea what those monies are, because if we take this grant and obligate these monies now, we are basically obligating ourselves to the future out years of maintaining this stuff. Attractive nuisance. We just went through some major heartache in having a civic event here. There were concerns about security, safety, and all that. And now we're going to put in a public restroom in this park and create an attractive nuisance so that all of a sudden people are coming in and possibly homeless people are going to start showing up to live in Bel-Air Beach, Bayside Park. I don't know. But I don't think we've ever really truly looked at that stuff. And we've never had any real solid data on, after we've spoken to people, they all want it. Well, okay, who are all these people that we're talking about? I don't know. But I do know one thing, The finance committee is made up totally of residents, and that's why I say we need a recommendation from the finance committee, because those people are the residents.
I'm just going to pause the council comments for a second. I think we do have to hear from the city manager to get some background information on this so we can debate it better. Mr. Reeves, what is the deadline for responding to this? What is the deadline for getting, further approval, putting up our share of the funds? In other words, give us, and just so everyone understands, we didn't even really get any background on this. Through the work of the city, this started when I was actually on the Parks Board, and I was just an alternate way back then. Leslie Natero was pushing for this, Wanda Schwer, as Glenn said, and I remember speaking up about this. And I encourage the council and the city to go forward and at least make the application. This is a $200,000 grant we just got from the federal government, but it is a matching grant, so to get $200,000, you need to put up $200,000. And the former Parks Board, this was the one headed by Robert Semple and his group, went through and worked out a whole bunch of improvements to Bayside Park over here. Everybody agreed on that, and we submitted it with Kyle Riefler's help, and we scored second highest, I believe, in the state. We really did very, very well. For a little city, we knocked them dead. So we got a $200,000 grant over here. The question is, Mr. Reeves, how do we get that money? I know what we have to do to get it, but as I remember you saying, it can be spread over 3 years, which would have been $65,000 a year. So if you would, please just give us a thumbnail of what the finances and how this works.
Well, the execution of this grant requires a return of it within 30 days from the date it was sent out. We don't control when they decided to send the grant out, so there was no conspiracy theory on this. Okay. This is a typical state operation. They go through and rank the projects. They had roughly $3.8 million to give away. We ranked second, which I thought was very good. Really good application, small community. So what has to happen? We have to execute the agreement. Currently, the grant agreement expiration date here is September 30th, 2022, which is right now about 3 years from now. And typically that's what these grants are spread over a 3-year period. So what we had budgeted, and we moved it, but before the grant can go forward, we have to execute this document. Then there'll be a time frame of somewhere between, based on my experience, 6 to 8 months before we actually get the notice to proceed. So I'm anticipating that being sometime late summer. Then you have 180 days after that to start. So if we wanted to accept it, we would budget it into next year's capital budget. But at any time before the project starts, we can terminate it and refuse to accept it. There's actually 2 documents that have to be signed and executed. They gave us 30 days, and typically these grants, the point system is based on what we opted to put. We get points for each item. As an example, some of the items that were put in the list, a new boardwalk, playground renovation, some beach work, tennis court renovation, exercise equipment, bocce ball court, a gazebo out here, environmental signage, bike rack, and public restrooms. And how the grant works is they pay half of whatever we spend. Now, if it turns out we do all this and we don't spend, we spend $350,000, we're only going to get $175 back. That's how it works. You have to spend the money first to get the money. That's how the system works. So you're making the expenditure, then you can request reimbursement. And, you know, if there's any city staff that does any work on the project, we can also request that, you know, money also. So, that's really the basics of how the grant works. The council at the time, and I brought this up, because this isn't an easy thing to deal with, this grant. There's a lot of stuff that went into it. Kyle worked on it very hard. Him and I kind of came up with what the best way to attack it to get the most points, because I've done many of these over the years. And I think Kyle did an outstanding job in the end. And, you know, it's, what is it, 6, 7 months since we put the application in and we finally heard something. So it's a long process. And you can ask for an extension. You know, as an example, if you don't get it done by 2022, you can ask for an extension. I know that to be true. So that's the background. If the council doesn't want to accept it, all I need to do is send back to the Florida Department of Environmental, to Angela Bright, and say, we no longer want to accept this grant.
I don't think that's what I heard. I think what I heard is defer it. So what you're saying is it can be accepted now, deferred, and
As long as we don't spend any money and we haven't been given a notice, right?
And to Vice Mayor Gunn's proposal, if everyone likes that idea, let the Finance Committee dig into this, and I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, I think a lot of this has never been analyzed. I don't agree with attractive nuisance. We've had homeless people bathing in the sink inside, so it's just as much, again, my concern is security inside for the people who work here. We've had that, you know, if they don't go outside, they come inside. So I don't think it's such a bad idea, and I know we work very closely with the local residents to make sure that this thing is in a very, you know, inconspicuous place and won't be affecting anyone's house or sight lines or anything. But I mean, if I'm hearing you right, City Manager, there's no downside to saying yes to this right now and then doing the analysis that Vice Mayor Gunn is calling for.
Yeah, and I'll double verify that with Ms. Bright. You know, I've dealt with her previously, so.
Mayor, I'd like to add also, I believe that we had a work session, sitting right out here whenever we discussed this earlier. And I believe we all agreed that we would move forward on the grant and then determine later, at a later date, we can actually move forward. And so it's a win for the city to get the grant. Now it's up to us and the Finance Committee to figure out if we can actually. So,
There council comments? I want to go through council first, I'll get back to you there. Vice Mayor.
My comments are just real detailed about the grant, and I don't think now is the time to discuss them.
Do it
So,
later.
yeah.
Anyone else? Vice Mayor. Secretary.
You brought me along and I understand this a lot more now than I just want to. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, I want to clarify one point is, it's just an administrative detail right now, going forward.
Yeah, because you can't even start it until they give you, and there's other documents you gotta turn in, and this is a process.
Okay, so, and the last question or clarification I need then is, we only get reimbursed for what we spend, so we can in essence modify that or scale it down by just what we spend money on projects, or are we stuck with?
Well, how the grant point system works is what you put in and you get a higher point total. I will tell you that restrooms get a lot of points, and support facilities. And we built the grant around what we had discussed with the Department of Rec Board at the time, and around what we thought we could get the most points with. And that's how we built the grant application.
Is there a possibility that if we cherry pick the list, that they'll say, well, no, that's not what we signed up for?
Typically, it's, if you take points away from your grant application, you're gonna drop down the list. And, but I can ask her that question, but I'm just saying typically that's how it works.
I do have a concern that just kind of came to mind, and that is through the grant documents, I don't know if everyone read this stuff, but there is a 25-year commitment to the property that we are getting the grant funds for. The problem I cost schedule for those. And the area in which we plan to call the grant area, which includes City Hall and all surrounding property. So does that, in effect, tie that entire parcel up to 25 years?
Well, technically, the grant area is only where items are put. And if we need to modify this outline around the City Hall parking lot, but any grant you get, whether it's FERDAP, which is Florida Development Recreational Assistance Program, Land and Water Conservation, any of these grants, you're locked into 25 years. Right now, the tennis courts are locked into 25 years from 2004 or 5. Bayside Park's probably about the same. So you either that or you have to reimburse the money. That's how it works.
Or
But-
can we choose, because that's a small portion of it, if we chose not to refurbish the tennis courts, can we just not select that one line item, which,
That's where I'm gonna get clarification on if they take points away. I don't have the finished grant back in front of me. I don't recollect what the point value was for that. But I can, there's a grant package and anyone can go look at it. So, mine. But I'll ask those questions.
At the end of the day, we're not releasing any funds, and we have to vote on that at a later date. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves, we have no other meetings scheduled this year. I'm trying to avoid calling special meetings during holidays if we can at all do that. If we give you are you the one who has to sign this? Can we give you authorization at this point to do it, and with the proviso that if you find something out that you haven't represented to us tonight, you'll get back to us immediately? I mean, if we have to call a meeting, we have to call it. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, what I'll do, I think that what I heard was you're concerned if we accept it, can we back out of it later? That's really what the main concern is, and you want an answer to that. If the answer is yes, then it's kind of a moot point, just go forward. And then I will ask about what Councilmember Shirley said, cherry picking, and Vice Mayor said. I will ask that question.
We have Fred Riley give this a once over. Once you get that piece of information, I want to make sure his legal opinion matches what they're telling you.
Yeah, I sent this to Fred.
You have it? Okay.
To look at. And it's pretty, well, it is a standard agreement. There isn't too much option to ever change anything because it's from the federal government.
Counselor, do you have any issue with us acting in that fashion, giving the city manager basically the approval or conditional approval, if you will, tonight with what we've just discussed?
Because the points you've raised and you're trying to get clarification on, I fully expect he can get clarifications from his person quickly and move forward without putting you at risk. I think you're moving the improvement in.
Any other council comments before I send it out to city comments? Citizens, any comments on this? Jim?
Jim Vance, Park Register in the city of Delaware Beach. When we talk about a couple things in reference to this grant, I would like to know from the city manager if I'm allowed to ask questions.
No. You can ask him of the group here. He can choose to answer if he wants something next go around. You can
Okay.
ask him to the group.
Okay. Can we modify the diagram? That would be my first question. And then when we got the sand from Morgan Park, we did put in a bathroom and shelter, I believe. So I'm just wondering what the difference is here on that. Second thing, I've been doing some research, and there's other cities that got corporate sponsors to match their grants. So they got businesses to actually match their grants. I'd like to see if the council would be in agreement to have a work session, if I could do some homework on this and be able to just bring it to a work session and let you all just look at it and view it and toss it around. The other thing, we talk about the $65,000 a year that we would have to basically budget for this grant. And it goes over a period of 3 years. My question is, at the end of that 3 years, what is the extension time? And if we put the $65,000 out a year, okay, and we come to find out that we can actually eliminate some of these things, do we get some kind of, I want to say penalty from the state for eliminating things at the last moment? And then fourth, when we talk about homelessness, I do know it's an issue within Pinellas County itself, but there's ways that we can do to help avoid possible situations. You know, we do have a lot of bushes out here that need to be trimmed back. One of the biggest things for them is a place to sleep, a place to hide. We have a building behind us that doesn't have grades over the accesses to underneath the building, okay? We need to keep our bushes trimmed up high enough so there's no hiding place. There's no place to sleep. We have to be vigilant as a city to avoid attractants to that kind of living arrangements. And then, lastly, I would like to see if my Parks and Rec Board could try to have some input on this, because this grant was laid out by the prior Parks Board, and I'd like to see if we could get some input with the council in reference to this after we get all these answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Other citizen comments? Back to council. I just want to pick up on a couple things that you mentioned. You always, as an advisory committee to the council, can speak to this council. Okay, that's what you're there for. So your committee, we value your input. I saw the incredible work that you did, and you were, without question, the driving force behind getting corporate sponsors for our festival. I think it's a great idea, and that may be something, since the Finance Committee is going to be reviewing this, you may want to bring that to the Finance Committee. Again, they're an advisory board too, but if they like that idea, I don't see why that can't be done. There's many parks that are built by corporations and other individuals. Of course, we don't have people within our city, but maybe people outside the city might want to do it. I don't know. It's worth asking. They're not going to come to us, so we have to go to them, and that's not a bad idea. It's also nothing stopping citizens from contributing. When I was campaigning, one citizen told me money is no object, so maybe if we remember his house, we'll start with him first. Council, any other comments? We're ready to vote on this. So our vote would be to authorize the city manager to execute the land and water conservation grant agreement with the, I'm not going to summarize everything that we said tonight, but with basically the instructions and the provisos that we basically set out over here. Mr. Reeves, it's incumbent upon you, if you find out that your understanding is different than what you've conveyed to us tonight, to immediately let me know, and we will call a council meeting, and we will get this taken care of. Because if you're against the 30-day deadline, our next meeting isn't until after 30 days, so I don't want to see us lose this. And good job to you and your crew, and to the prior Parks Board, and everybody who served on that. This is a really big thing for us. I think it's one of the biggest grants we've seen in a long time, so great job on that. Ready to vote? Madam Clerk, I think this is an authorization. You can just go with a voice vote.
You can, whichever you prefer.
Let's go one by one.
Councilmember Aki? Aye. Councilmember Bean?
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis?
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley?
Aye.
Councilmember Swope?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn?
Aye.
Mayor Manzo?
Aye. So it passes 7-0. Mr. Reeves, you're authorized to go forward, and please let us know if there's anything that we should know about, okay? Finance Committee, I know I see at least one or two, I think I see a couple people here. This should come to you immediately. Mr. Reeves, I'm going to ask that a copy of this be given to them for their first meeting, if you would, the full packet that we just got with the grant, the explanation. I know you're probably going to be at those meetings anyway, but maybe a short explanation by you to each of them so that they can come up to speed the way we just did, because, you know, most of them don't know it. And also, I think the Parks Board probably would like a copy of this too. She's nodding, so we're going to ask for that to happen. They're having a meeting soon. Okay. So next we move to item 5.5. That was item 11, which was been moved and by the amendment, and that's the consideration of resolution 2019-11, and it's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, regarding the Bel Air Beach Charter Review Committee and establishing an effective date. We've really already done that. This is the vote part of it, and it's the City Council ballot to vote for up to 2 resident committee members and up to 1 resident alternate committee members. We've got a group of individuals that have, in our packets, that have asked to be considered for this, and we will consider that. We do need a motion just to get this before the board. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Yes, second. Okay, we'll open it for discussion. Typically what we do on this is, we can certainly speak, council, but we might want to confine our comments to the end after we hear from any of the individuals who want to step forward and speak. Certainly welcome to speak. Starting with you, Mr. Gaddis, you made the motion. Blake.
I'm sorry, what was
Say
the
the motion.
Yes,
Okay, so you have first shot if you want to speak. If not, we'll get it to the...
Let's get started.
Okay.
I do have one quick question, or statement, I should say, and that is, the resolution as it reads, regarding the alternate, it's not clear that that alternate needs to be a resident. Last whereas at the bottom.
Let's say, whereas the Bel Air Beach City Council desires to appoint up to 1 alternate member to the committee. City Clerk, you wrote the agenda, or Mr. Reeves, you wrote the agenda. I'm not sure how did we come up with this difference here.
In the section 1 of the body of the document, it has resident alternate.
We have a comment there.
Oh, yeah, the listing, yeah, on the back, the front of the page, there is a blank who that resident alternate is, but when I read through this, I had that question for Len, I'm like, why is there, because I was told I could not be an alternate, which is what led to the question. So I think it needs to be clear, that needs to be probably modified to say.
I don't remember, I'll be honest, I don't remember that we specified that it had to be a resident alternate. I thought we just said it was going to be an alternate member. I remember that from the words. Council, do we have any feelings on this? I mean, we have
I would
something.
assume that anyone serving in the city in a elected or a committee, anything of that nature, should be represented.
Or could it be a council member? I think that's what council member should. I think she has interest in this.
I don't see,
The resident.
that's true. I tell you, I do feel like that there's probably more council members than residents, actual residents that aren't serving currently, and I would like to have more of them. So in the event that when another council member would like to be either an alternate or one of the standard members, I would step down.
Well, let me just clarify one thing. The whereas before that says, whereas the Bel Air Beach City Council desires to appoint up to 7 permanent members, of which no more than 5 shall come from the council. So we are limited, I think we limited ourselves on the council because we didn't want to take, have everyone on it. And again, when we made this proposal, nobody knew how many members would even get confirmed. It turned out that there were 5 nominations, and all 5 were confirmed unanimously. But I don't think we put a restriction on that. Certainly, if we need to clarify it, I will entertain. I mean, somebody can make a motion to amend this if we have to, but let's clarify it. I don't have a problem with it personally.
My recommendation would be to have 2 alternates then. If one is a council member, we should have another alternate as a non-serving.
With that, would you then propose, David, that we would go from, if it was a council member, let's say that was unable to serve on the permanent committee, that would be replaced by a council member, and somebody who's a citizen that would be replaced by a citizen. That's the way you do it. Makes sense. Council?
That sounds fair. I just didn't want any, I mean, at this point, I'm not proposing to change anything other than making sure that it's clear that it's not challenged later and then we have an issue down the road. Try to avoid that.
I do remember, I think it was Vice Mayor Brendan's quote, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he said, it doesn't matter how many alternates we have. I don't have a problem with all alternates
Yeah,
on
I
it.
don't see it. I think that the reason it matters is only that we can't have a quorum. That's when it matters. And this many members, where we need 4 for a quorum, is that correct?
Can I ask a question here? You weren't here when the role was taken for people who
That
have
was outside.
participators.
Right.
And I guess the way it was conveyed to us was you didn't have an interest then, or do you have an interest now? Or
We were in the work session, I absolutely had no interest. That's correct. The more I thought about it, I would be willing to support the group as it is. But again, I have a lot of commitments outside of this. So if I don't have to serve at every meeting, that's fine. I was thinking down the road of, we had a situation where we didn't have a quorum, how is that council position filled, that sort of thing.
no, I'm just trying to wade through this because I know Mara Beam said, well, I'll step up if there's not an interest. So I guess my question is are we still going the route we've gone? You're the permanent member?
I'll step down.
I'm happy to step down, Jody, if you want to take my spot.
Okay, fine, I'll take this one.
I don't want everybody stepping down. So we can change, I mean, we can add, this doesn't affect the citizens, okay? We can appoint up to, it's my call on the nomination, so I have to nominate. Trust me, I'll nominate you. So if somebody steps down, I'm going to nominate Jody Shirley. If somebody wants to step down from the council here, you could always become the alternate. I do like Dave Gaddis' suggestion. You'd have to amend that also. Again, I don't think there's a problem having all the alternates, because somebody could be out for the night, so, or more longer.
I'm going to go ahead and step down because I think Jody would have more expertise than me, would have more knowledge based to bring to this committee than I would. If you accept it.
I accept it. Okay.
So then I'm going to nominate Jody Shirley for a permanent position. Patty, we had to do a paper ballot on this, so do you have to make one up?
There are extra spaces on the ballot, so you just write it in.
We can do that. Okay. So-
I have a question. Mayor, will you be recusing yourself since June is applying because you did that on the Parks and Rec committee when we voted on that? So I don't know if the vice mayor needs to take over on this aspect.
I did that without the benefit of legal counsel. That was the night Paul Marino was having his infamous little situation here. Upon my further review, I'm not required to recuse myself. It's not a family relationship. She's my girlfriend. And I will cite the law if anyone wants it, and Fred Riley can look at it. We'll call, I know lawyers hate, and city attorneys in particular hate, being blindsided with having to come up with the law, but Fred, it is 112.3143 voting conflicts. And,
I'm familiar with it.
okay, and the way I read it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, so I'll be more than happy to step away. It defines relative, and in this situation, let me find exactly where I got this. Okay, 112.31431C, relative means, this is for voting conflicts, which is what this is, means any father, mother, son, daughter, husband, wife, brother, sister, father-in-law, mother-in-law, son-in-law, or daughter-in-law. June Van Scoy is neither of those to me. So I'll abide by whatever your decision is, but that's the way I read it. The other one, which was broader, which is the one that I had mistakenly relied upon last time, does not apply in voting conflict. It does define relative differently, and it defines it to be people who live in your household. that's not applicable for a voting conflict here. So it does define relative for other parts of this statute, but not for that. So that's the way I read it. If you need a timeout, I'll certainly give you all the time.
I don't need a timeout. What you read is accurate, and I've looked at it recently in a different situation, so I'm really familiar with the language. The one caveat to having, two people in the same household on a committee is that you shouldn't be discussing it outside of the confines of the meeting, and that's, you both go into the serving on the committee with that understanding that if you don't adhere to that, then that's an ethical situation for both people.
I'm well aware of that, and it's actually a bonus. We will be discussing this 24/7 at my house, so I think that's great. Based on the advice of counsel, I will not be recusing myself. In fact, it would be illegal to do so. Any other questions? With that, I'm going to open it up to the floor. I see the captain here, I see June Van Scoy, I see Stan Sofer. So anyone who wants to speak, Mark is here. So anyone who's applied for this, you have Leslie Notero also. You have 3 minutes, uninterrupted. Please address the council, and again, I don't think it should be much of an issue. I will say this, there was a letter that was sent to us by Kathleen Clazier. The letter has been distributed against the legal advice that was given just a week ago, that stuff like this shouldn't be distributed, should be placed on council members' desks instead of distributed via email. That letter is an attack piece. I personally don't like it. It attacks me and it attacks June Van Scoy. And if Ms. Clazier was here and said that very stuff there, I would call a point of order and she would be in violation of Robert's Rules of Order. It's impermissible. So if you're going to come up here, follow the code of conduct, please. Okay? I don't know how you can serve on a committee if you can't be civil to the people that are going to elect you. With that said, would anyone like to speak? Yes?
Good evening, Council.
You're speaking into the mic.
Good evening, Council members and Mayor, residents of the city. My name is Mark Serafian. I'm at 408 22nd Street, Bella Beach. 24-year resident of the city. I'm well vested in the city with young children to go forward with my interests in the city, and I serve on the Park and Recreations Board. And we were successful in the first venture, as we know, made a profit. I've run a successful medical business for 24 years. Operated and owned a restaurant bar on Clearwater Beach. It's very successful. I sold to Bradley Wilson, as you know. We're good friends, and I have contacts with that corporation as well because of my sale of my restaurant bar to them back in 2001. I've worked for Philip Morris with the train back in the mid-90s before the tobacco lawsuits. I was instrumental in preparing the medical aspects of that tour train in case there were accidents, and what the procedure was. Medical facilities were available out there in Wyoming, Idaho, Colorado, and Montana. So I do bring some experience to this volunteer position, and I bring some passion because of my family, being young and anticipating living here a long time. I also have a law degree. I'm not licensed, but I do have a law degree. So some understanding, some basic understanding of legal processes. So I would like to volunteer my services for those reasons. I'd like to be considered for the position. Thank you.
Thank you. Stan Sofer.
Mr. Mayor, Council, citizens, I am Stan Sofer, 117 5th Street, Bel Air Beach. Been a member of the community for 26 years. Served on the council like you guys for about 8 years. I was vice mayor also at one point in time. I still have my name on the plaque on the front of this building.
And the charter committee, when it met before, there were a lot of questions, and I would like to try to fix some of the issues that I think you're facing right now. And I'd be more than happy to try to serve and provide my time, experiences. I own a restaurant in Bel Air Bluffs, was in the mortgage business for 20 years, worked for the New Orleans Chamber of Commerce. I was a licensed general contractor in Louisiana. Came here, and I'd like to retire here in a nice, comfortable, quiet community that's peaceful. And if I can add to that, I'd be more than happy to. I serve at your pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, thank you. You're referring to me as a captain, my name's Mike, it's okay.
You are a captain, and I was quite impressed with your military background.
Oh.
And it was,
Thank
you
you.
fought some wars for us, folks.
Yeah.
He's a hero.
Appreciate Captain Dunn as well, what he's done, we've talked a few times over that. Briefly, my experience, you talked about the Navy captain. I was the person that put, you've heard of the surge that went into Iraq. I'm the person that basically led the effort, designed it. I was working on General Petraeus' staff. I was director for mobilization logistics, which means cars, planes, trains, everything that moved in that theater was mine. Served in county government as a commissioner as well. I had over 88,000 veterans that I was responsible for. In fact, one of the largest veterans communities in the United States. Right now, we're talking about retirement. I tried to retire. I was not allowed to. We worked directly for the Navy. Basically, the senior naval expert in ship safety. That means weapon systems. And I'm the only person right now that can certify the latest class destroyers is safe to operate. So I work half-time, and that's purely what I do. I just review the engineering, review the operations, work with senior engineers of the Navy and the major program managers. But above that, I believe in service. I want to give something back. That a lot of you, when you're campaigning, I believe in what you try to do, but I just bring, first of all, I like working with people. About the only group of persons I've never really got along with was Al-Qaeda, and I'm serious about that. They had a death threat out for me. Near the end, I was trying to open up a port in Star, so we had some problems with them. But look forward to working with you if you're elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Captain, I think you forgot one important thing that also was on your background, and I just wanted to highlight it because I know you probably got maybe a little nervous with all of this. You're also county commissioner, I believe, in past,
Yes, sir.
past things. Yes. Thank you. Mayor Notaro or June Van Scoy, anyone else want to speak? Mayor Notaro shaking her head no. June?
Good evening. It seems like just a few months ago, I was up here in front of the council to be voted on for Parks and Rec Board. What do I bring to the city? Well, I feel like I bring a very objective mind, very community-oriented person. All I want to do is volunteer and help the city. I think with my background with Pinellas County, with the Planning and Zoning Board, supervisor for the county, and all the Pinellas emergency operations, and I have had my hands on day-to-day operations of the county, which the city of Bel Air Beach definitely is a step down from that because of the numbers. Do I have any personal agenda? My personal agenda, and let's just clear this, is to help the city. All along, it's been to help the city. I love the city. I want to see the city help itself. I want to see it be more self-sufficient. That's the way I took on the parks role, and we just ended up with $1,700 after putting on an event for the city cleared. It cost the city no money. And that being said, that has always been my goal, is to come up with ways to help the city without it costing us, without it causing more work, more havoc, just working together as a community. And that is my total goal,
is to work together as a community to make this community better. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments are closed, and we're back to council. Council, this is our time to comment, and again, rules apply to everyone else, apply to us. Basically, if you have nothing nice to say, we're not going to say it. So if we want to support a person, we can certainly do that, but we don't want to be knocking anyone. These are all very qualified candidates. Anybody have any comments? I do have a question. I have a question for council. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, because mine was a question about voting, so we'll get to that.
I was going to go over voting, but
Okay.
before we do that, let's clarify. We did say that we were going to, so we're going to need an amendment motion to go along with what Councilmember Gaddis said, which is to add one, Robin's resigned, Jody's on. We're going to put an alternate from the council and an alternate from the citizens.
I'd like to clarify that. Basically, I only wanted to add an extra alternate only if another council member wanted to be an alternate. I didn't want to force the position.
That's what I was going to add. Robin was on this and you just resigned. I would certainly, it was a very nice thing that you did, but if you're interested still, I could easily nominate you for this alternate spot.
I mean, I'm happy to help, but I think Jody's more qualified as far as
That's for the permanent spot, but you could be alternate.
I mean, I can come to meetings and voice my opinion, and
I'm
that's fine.
nominating you.
Okay.
So we have a nomination for that, and
Mayor, I wrote out language that we could use to amend it, if that's what we want.
okay.
So,
So if you'd like, you want to read that in, right? Because I think we're finished with comments at this point, right? Does anybody have any comments that we have? Okay. So I'm going to, normally, we're at the vote part, but let's get the amendment, and I'm going to yield my, what I normally do is read the question, I'm going to yield that to the city attorney.
well, this is the proposed language. The last recital would now read, whereas the Bel Air Beach City Council desires to appoint up to 2 alternate members to the committee, in parentheses, including 1 resident alternate and 1 council member alternate, period. And then in the first provision where the alternates are named, you would add letter I, which is council member alternate, and a blank.
To make that official, and you don't have to repeat it word for word, what the city attorney just said, somebody needs to make that motion, and then we'll need a second, have a discussion, but it's not going to be probably very long, and then we can vote on that amendment, and we can actually do votes. So we have to take it in this order.
I move to amend this resolution.
Pursuant to the city attorney. Right? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any citizen discussion? Okay. We can take a vote on that amendment at this point. Pat.
Councilmember Aki? Aye. Councilmember Bean?
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis?
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley?
Aye.
Councilmember Stoll?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dunn?
Aye.
Mayor Manzo?
Aye. So the amendment passes 7-0. It's amended, and now we will actually do the voting. So the Robin Aki is nominated to. So we're going to have to, I guess, city clerk we'll just add these in, handwrite these in on our ballots. So let's correct one ballot, and we'll make sure that everybody's ballot comports to the rules here. So when it says member, it says vote for 2. That should say up to 2.
Shouldn't it be 3?
No, because it's members, up to 2 members. We're only electing 2 members. Well, okay, we have to put another line in because we're going to vote for one council. Yeah, council. So put another column in that says council. Vote up to 1. And the only person running is Jody Shirley. Correct. So we have resident alternate then, where it says alternate, and that says vote for up to 1. And then we have council alternate. vote for up to one, and you'll have to add Robin Aki. Did I get that right, council? Okay, was I saying yes? Mark, you're moving your hand. Thanks, Mark. Okay, so I think we're ready to go here. Now, the one thing we didn't do was discuss how we were going to vote this. You need 4 votes in order to be on. You have to get the majority of council. We have a lot of people running over here. So I think what we've done in the past, we're not going to get into flipping coins because you have to get 4 votes over here. But I would propose that we do 2 or, if necessary, 3 ballots and just cull it down by people who are getting 0 or 1 votes to move them off if after the first ballot. You can't switch your votes. You're not bound to it just because you voted to a person first time, but I think we have to try and get people on. I'd like to do it that way. So that's my proposal, but I'll do it however you'd like. I've seen this done in the past this way, and whatever you think is best. Anybody? You good with that? Do up to 3 ballots then, okay? So this is the first ballot. So we're voting at this point for first ballot. So let's see what we get. Who is going to track these? City manager, you can track them? You normally do on the big ones like this, okay.
For the council member, I'm not sure these are matching.
You can just read them by the person and we'll just tally it down.
I'm just trying, everyone has written it a different way. Okay, so, Councilmember Aki for the council member, Jody Shirley. Councilmember Green, Jody Shirley. Mayor Manzo, Jody Shirley. Glenn Gunn, Jody Shirley. Big Gaddis, Jody Shirley. Jody Shirley. Is that you?
First.
And Councilmember Swope.
I voted for Robin Aki as alternate because I assumed that Jody Shirley was already on because Robin Aki resigned from it, pulled herself off, so I don't know why.
Okay, so it's 6-0. Six votes for Jody Shirley. So, Jody, congratulations. You're now on as the permanent member for council. That was easy.
That's what's going to be Louise.
Okay.
The resident member vote for up to 2. Councilmember Aki, Mr. Sofer and Mr. Zabel. Sorry about that.
No.
Councilmember Bean. Mr. Sofer and Mr. Zabel. Mayor Manzo, Mr. Sofer and Mr. Zabel. Vice Mayor Gunn, Mr. Serafian and Mr. Zabel. Councilmember Gaddis, Mr. Sofer and Mr. Zabel. Councilmember Shirley, Mr. Serafian and Mr. Zabel. And Councilmember Swope, Ms. Otero and Ms. Freer.
So when I calculate this, and city manager, correct me, I have 6 votes for Mr. Zabel, I have 4 votes for Stan Sofer, and everyone else got 2 or 1 vote. So that's enough to carry it. So Mr. Zabel and Mr. Sofer, congratulations, you're on as permanent members. And now we have an alternate from the city.
Resident alternate. Councilmember Aki, Mr. Serafian, Councilmember Bean. Mayor Manzo is Ms. Gascoigne. Vice Mayor Gunn is Mr. Sofer. Councilmember Gaddis is Mr. Serafian. Councilmember Shirley is Councilmember Aki.
So,
Was it? Is that right? No.
that was for
Oh, Mr. Sofer? Yes. Thank you. Mr. Sofer. And Councilmember Swope is Mr. Yes, Mr. Zabel.
We're going to need another ballot here. Because nobody's got, we don't have 4, votes are all over the place, and 2, and Mr. Zabel and Mr. Sofer are already on, so.
Oh, he's gonna have the mayor's seats. You should have 2 ballots.
So, this should be fun. Okay, so we're just voting for up to 1. Let's cross out Mr. Sofer, Mr. Zabel, since they're on already. Leaves Kathleen Plager, Leslie Natero, Burke Serafian, Wanda Schreier, and Jim Van Scoy. We're voting for up to 1. No question that this is Florida, folks. It's ballots. Said as a true New Jersey.
Councilmember Aki, Mr. Serafian. Councilmember Bean, Mr. Serafian. Mayor Manzo, Mr. Serafian. Vice Mayor Gunn, Mr. Serafian. Councilmember Gaddis, Mr. Serafian. Councilmember Shirley, Mr. Serafian. Swope, Ms. Otero.
I have 6 votes for Mr. Serafian. Congratulations, you're the alternate. I think we're done with that. No other votes coming in, right? We already voted for you. I think so. Yeah, you got it. I think we did, right? You didn't vote for it?
You still have Robin.
I thought she was on the first ballot.
No, it was just Jeremy.
Oh. Patty, do you have a third ballot? I'll tell you what, there's only one person on here. Why don't we just call it? Let's just call it. There's only one person, so this is the way we did it during the regular nomination. So if you'll just call it. Yes, exactly. So this is to place Robin Aki as the alternate, for the council alternate. It's a yes or no vote.
Councilmember Aki,
Yes.
Councilmember Bean,
Yes.
Councilmember Gaddis,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley,
Yes.
Councilmember Swope,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gunn,
Yes.
Mayor Manzo.
Yes. So Robin, congratulations. You're the alternate. Now we're done?
Yes.
Everyone, thank you. Before we send everyone away, we have one thing that we have to do. This committee begins after January 1st. I'm not the chairman of this committee, okay? But somebody needs to start this committee, and I don't care who that is, but somebody has to call it to order. Somebody has to do the Pledge of Allegiance, call the roll, which will be the city clerk, and then the first thing is the nomination of officers, and then I think that person takes it over. So I think while we have everyone here, is there someone who would like to get the meeting going? And number 2, what day do we want to start this at? Which has to be in January, after January 1st. Anyone? And anyone from who's been elected, please feel free to come up and have any input that you'd like.
I think we should have one of the residents in charge.
I like that idea, yeah, I do. Again, this is just to get us going, but somebody needs to bring this meeting to order.
As a member of the group, I'd like to nominate the captain. He has command experience. I'd like to see someone in that position, if he'd accept.
Cap, do we have anybody else interested in getting us going? We'll do a voice vote on council. All in favor of the captain being the person who will bring this meeting to order that night, take it to the nomination of officers, and then the officers will take over from there. All in favor? Aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? Captain, congratulations. It passes unanimously. This will be your meeting to start. The city clerk will call the meeting and post it. This is subject to all the public records rules. It has to be, public has to be invited and everything. But we do need to pick a day. So I don't know what day is convenient for everyone. I don't even have my calendar, but we do have to get some tentative date. If not, we're, with the holidays, no one's going to know when this starts. So. Does anyone have a calendar of January?
Mayor, Patty could
Yes.
send out some dates.
Okay.
And see if everybody's.
I'm going to suggest that. I mean, we have our first council meeting, I think, on the 6th, so sometime maybe after that, a couple days afterwards, and that's all.
Did you get that today?
Yes.
Okay. And that's not a sunshine violation, folks. Just you can say what day is good, okay? Don't discuss anything else, but everybody's saying that the 6th, the 6th is no good, but the 8th or whatever is good, that's wonderful, and then it'll be scheduled. Look forward to working with everyone, and thank you everyone who's expressed interest in this and in our city. It's so refreshing to see everybody interested in this. It's great. Thanks. Okay, that was item 5.5. We now have some ministerial stuff to approve some minutes. The first one is the approval of the November 4th, 2019 City Council minutes. Do I have a nomination? Do I have a motion? Second, anyone?
Second.
Does anybody have any changes or additions to that? Nothing. Any comments from the citizens? Back to the council. Any other comments? All in favor of approving the November 4th, 2019 City Council minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next, item number 7, approval of the November 18th, 2019 Special City Council minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Gaddis, I'll have you a second. Any comments, changes to that? No changes on council. Any changes from the city? Any other comments on council? All in favor of approving the November 18th, 2019 special city council minutes, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Last, we have approval of the November 18th, 2019 city council work session minutes. Do I have a motion? Second, anyone?
Second.
Anybody have any changes or additions to that? Anyone from the city have any changes or additions? Back to council, any comments? All in favor of approving the November 18th, 2019 city council work session minutes, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now have item 9. Item 9 is the consideration of resolution 2019-13. It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, to appoint the city treasurer, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for appointment of the city treasurer, and establishing an effective date. The description here is the appointment of the interim city treasurer to city treasurer. For anyone who's not familiar, we used to have our own city treasurer. It was a full-time position. Since her resignation, we've been filling it with an outside accounting firm, and this basically makes that permanent, and that comports with our city charter and the intent of where our city is supposed to go, which is to have a regular city treasurer that's on our payroll, if you will. So with that, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Jody, you move that?
Yes.
Thanks. Any comments from the city council?
Who is that person? Just-
And Andrew Tess.
He's been the person who's been doing it, correct,
Right.
Mr. Reeves? Okay. And you're very satisfied with the work he's performed?
Yes, and he's got an associate that helps him, Heather, and her name's Galag. I'm not gonna mess it up, it's Heather.
And explain just for everyone's benefit how this relationship works in terms of employee-employer, and I know it works for the outside firm too, so how does that work?
They're a contracted firm. Andy is the lead person. He is being appointed the treasurer, and Heather is one of his assistants.
So he's not actually our employee, correct?
No, he'll still be.
Contracted.
He still has a contract.
Okay, and that's subject to any rules like our regular contracts, which is in the domain then of the city council, should there be any issues. And I know we're satisfied now, but just making sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Council, any other comments? Any comments from the city? Anything back to council? Madam Clerk, will you call a vote?
Councilmember Aki?
Aye.
Councilmember Dean?
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis?
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley?
Aye.
Councilmember Swope?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn?
Aye.
Mayor Manzo?
Aye. So it passes 7-0. City manager, you'll execute that as soon as possible then, correct?
Well, you're the one that's going to execute.
I'll execute it tonight then. I think that's in my packet. Okay, very fine. All right. Item number 10, consideration of resolution 2019-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, to adopt a public records policy, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for adoption of a public records policy, and providing for an effective date. Policy for access, inspection, and copying of public records. The description, it doesn't have a person who brought this, and I assume that that's the city manager in absence of any detail, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so the city manager Reeves. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'm going to go with Jody Shirley as the mover and Councilmember Dean the second. Comments from the city council? Comments?
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Sure.
In the public records thing, it states in a reasonable time frame. That's up to one's own definition of reasonable. Is it possible to set a specific time frame? That's one of the things I wanted to bring up. And also, have we already supplied all current requests in a reasonable time frame that are been requested from our city, from anybody and everybody?
We still have some open requests.
From what time frame? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out the definition of reasonable.
City attorney, would you like to address that?
Hang on a second. I'm going to keep this with council, and we're going to move to city council. I already know the answer to this, so go right ahead. City council. Now, I don't want to cross questions and answers here. That's not appropriate. So there's a question in general about what does reasonableness mean. Okay, that's on the floor. Any other comments from City Council? Questions?
I do have a comment, which is basically requests made before this policy is enacted should not, basically they should not adhere to these rules and regulations because they didn't exist at the time of the request. I would say anything going forward definitely should.
I have a couple of comments also. Number one, on 2.9 it says format, and it says that last sentence, it says, if not maintained in the, well, let's read the whole thing. The city shall provide all requested public records in the format requested if the record is maintained in that format. That's correct. That's what the law says. If not maintained in the requested format, the city shall provide the record in its original format or in some other meaningful format, such as paper or PDF. And I am going to call on the city attorney soon, but he and I have already discussed this, that everything that comes after or in that last sentence is expanding the law, and I think it's a dangerous way to go. The law is you get the record in the manner in which it's kept. If it's kept in cyberspace, you get to view it. If it's kept in paper, you can make a photocopy of it. It's dangerous to say some other meaningful format because there will be people who will require you to put it into, whatever. Somebody wants it in a PDF, somebody wants it in a Word document, somebody wants it in, Lord knows what. So that's not what the law says, I don't believe, and Fred Riley will correct us on that. With regard to the 5.3 extensive public records requests, it talks about matters more than 30 minutes, and again, this is something I reviewed with the city attorney. That's not the law. The law is, there's no law, but the case law on it is 15 minutes. That's what it says, and that 15 minutes is what we've been using so far as our standard in the city, and I think that we should keep that to that 15 minutes. 5.4, it talks about an estimate of all costs, and my question, and it's a general question, is that going to include legal? I'm going to talk about that extensive public records request that I and June Van Scoy have been hit with for 3,000 records. The city attorney has spent umpteen hours fulfilling and trying to work with this, as has our city clerk. And so the question is who's picking up that legal bill? Because right now it's the citizens that are picking up that legal bill. Again, these are legal requests. They're not, but somebody has to pay for them, and the law gives us the right to recoup our costs. So whether legal can be wrapped in there or not, I'm not quite sure. Those are the comments that I had on this. Regarding reasonable, it's my understanding that reasonable has not ever been defined by the courts. It basically means if you're not trying to stymie the request or inordinately dragging your feet, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, but there are limits, and I will talk about the present request at a later point today, and I do believe our city may be pushing those limits on this request. So with that said, when council is finished, I will move to city attorney. Council. City attorney.
I'll make a number of comments. The purpose for having a written policy is to fill a void. Up until now, the city has not had a written policy. The city clerk is typically the person that fulfills the public records request, but there could easily be a public records request from another employee, and having a policy, it would be helpful to all employees to have some idea of what the process should be. The policy that Lynn and I presented is based on one that we recently implemented in Haines City, where I'm also the city attorney. The policy is certainly based on Florida statutes, and in particular Chapter 119, which is the Florida Public Records Law. There's a number of things I'll respond to. The points you've raised, as far as reasonableness, that is the standard that is in Chapter 119, and it is a standard that is common in the law, and it's based on typically the totality of the circumstances. So with each request, it's a totality of circumstances as to what constitutes reasonable. If somebody asks for a copy of this page in front of me, that shouldn't take me a week to produce. It should take me the time it takes for me to walk across the hall, make a copy and hand that to you. And that would be a reasonable, and then of course it can become very complicated after that. But I again say, part of the reason to have a policy is to give guidance so that you have consistency and you have transparency. When we go through the first specific one that the mayor cited, which is 2.9, and he wanted to delete the phrase "or in some other meaningful format such as paper or PDF." The standard that's in Chapter 119 is that the city is required to, one, provide a document or provide a public record in whatever format it's in. And you are not required to create a new document to fulfill the request. So it's copying an existing document in whatever format it is. Deleting the part that you asked to delete, I'm okay with, although leaving it in, to me, gives you a basis for an alternate method of doing it. I will tell you, and this is from long experience, the public records law is, to me, a very complicated law because the legislature, over a course of really about 50 years, has continually revised the law, and this is a law that is the fundamental basis for it is to provide transparency of how government is working, and then there are various exclusions and various exceptions that have been included and then added to the law, and this truly is a law that is a Swiss cheese type law that has all sorts of caveats, and in addition to the legislature making changes, of course there have been case law and court rulings along the way as to how the law should be actually applied. Every year we receive a new version of the Sunshine Manual, and if you've ever had the pleasure of looking at that, it's about a 300-page booklet, and it covers two things: public records law and public meetings. And it is very detailed, and if you ever suffer from insomnia, please start reading that. But I'm okay with that change, although I think that's being hypersensitive to that point.
May I add a comment right quick? Suppose that someone requests a document in its original format is in Microsoft Word, and hands them a file that's ready to be edited and handed off to the next person to do whatever they want to with. Well, you've lost the original document. As soon as somebody saves it again, you've lost that document. So my argument would be to allow other formats than just the original, because of just for that matter of fact, we may only want them to have a PDF version of the file rather than the original, whatever software she created.
Under no circumstances would Patty or any other city clerk ever give an original. It is incumbent upon the person fulfilling this request to safeguard the request and safeguard the original documents under law. That is the reason why this is taking so long. Some of the emails that are being requested of me in June exist only in cyberspace. They're on my locked phone that unlocks with my facial recognition. Once you unlock that phone, you unlock everything. You're not getting my phone, and I don't have to give that phone. So I can show that to you. But I cannot unlock that and hand it to someone for various reasons. Patty could never do something like that. She could duplicate it though. I caution, and I don't think it's being hypersensitive, I caution this city against expanding an already out of control law. Okay, this law is so broad. If you give the individual, remember, I have a 3,000 request coming. That will come against you too someday. And when you have to fulfill this thing and you start expanding it and start giving people options, I think we are creating a worse nightmare than what we have already. I cannot support expanding the law. It's broad enough right now.
Well, this is a policy, and this, the point you're making about handing somebody a Word document, I fully understand that, and I, in many ways, agree with you. There are times that I will only, I work with a Word document, but by the time we get to the final document, I make it a PDF just for that purpose.
That's at your option. And if you want to do that, that's fine. You can go above and beyond our policy, but I don't want to encumber our city any further. This is costing us a bundle of money to do this stuff. And at best, we'll recoup our costs. We won't. Okay? I don't think you can charge legal fees. And so this money is just being eaten up over here with our city budget.
Okay, Mayor, you mentioned 5.3 and the going from 30 minutes to 15 minutes, and I think that's fine, no issue with that. And 5.4, written estimate for all costs, that's covered in the statute.
My issue with that was legal. Can legal be wrapped into that? I don't remember seeing that it could. You're legal. Now, I know outside legal can't be, but you have, I don't even know how many hours you've spent on this records request. It's been a lot.
My comments are going to be strictly on the policy, not on a public records request.
No, but the question is you say all cost, that's not defined, so is legal considered all cost? Because to me it is.
Legal's a component of cost, and I'll give you an example. If there was a police report that the sheriff's department created, then in addition to the document that they hand to the clerk or to me, then it's always a good idea to make sure that it's redacted so that there is not information that's disseminated that should have been exempted. And that type of legal expense is, I think, very important. I've done other requests where, in order to work with the clerk, and ensure that some of the intricate redactions are done, that we have charged for legal. What you're obligated to do is charge for the lowest level that you're capable of doing in the organization for the cost.
I'll turn it over to the citizens at this point. I see no hands. I do, just two hands, so. Yes, please, yes.
Yeah, Mike Zabel, I guess you saw on the resume the big things. I got a master's of science in software engineering. I agree with both your points. If you release a Word document, that person is then able to change it, challenge you, say, no, this is what mine says. There's accusations both sides. But Word has the option, rather than paying for additional software like Adobe, which has licensing costs, etc., that when they send it out, they go instead of save as Word document, save as a PDF. At that point, the person can't change it. I mean, it's locked. So you only have the only copy in existence that is truth. Nobody else can adjust it for you outside. So just a recommendation. You don't need to go save as PDF. There you go. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. You don't need speech. Okay. Back to any other citizens' comments? Back to council. I see a lot of, I saw a few changes over here. Do we want to change this on the fly here and vote on it tonight? I do agree with Councilmember Gaddis that this is not a retroactive policy. This pertains to go forward. We had no policy before. Embarrassing, but we didn't. So that's what we live with. This is on a go forward basis. it's effective as of the date of signature here. So the changes would be, well, at least the change I proposed was to eliminate that "or" in 2.9 and everything that follows it, and the adjustment of 5.3, yeah, that's where it is, 5.3, so instead of saying 30 minutes, that would be adjusted to say 15 minutes, which is in agreement with the state case, which is a prisoner right case, as I remember, Mr. Riley. Those would be the two changes, and then Councilmember Gaddis, did you want to put something in that this is effective on a go-forward basis? Because it does have tonight as the date of being signed, but it's vague about when it applies.
Yes, that would be nice. And basically something, in fact, Council, would you mind giving us some work on that, on how to just state what we apply?
I'm not clear what you're asking.
Only for requests going forward on sign.
Well, the resolution has an effective date.
But it doesn't speak about retroactivity, and I think I agree with him, let's just close that door.
We have pending requests.
Yeah. Particularly given this.
We have,
Here are two people.
we have pending requests, records requests right now that are waiting, and we don't want those to apply to this particular, the way that this is written, because they weren't asked before this policy was ever made.
I absolutely agree with you. This is not a retroactive policy.
Okay, and basically, I'm just asking for some sort of formal wording to be added to this.
We're waiting.
Okay, thank you.
While he's writing that, these amendments to this will have to be moved by someone, seconded, we'll move the amendment, and approval.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to amend.
Based on what he's going to
Right.
give us. Okay.
With that, item number 3, number 1 would be 2.9 format, go ahead and strike.
Everything from board.
Yes.
And,
There's nothing in 3.5 or 5.3.
yep.
Extensive public records request, first line there, strike the 30 and replace it with 50.
Item 3 would be, right,
I second that motion.
okay, thank you. We just want to wait for Fred to get the last piece in, and then we'll be back in a second.
Okay, I suggest you add section 6.6, which would say, this policy shall not be applied retroactively to the enacting resolution.
Retroactively to the enacted resolution. Is that acceptable to you, Vice Mayor, for your motion?
Why don't you just change effective date, include that under section 3 in the resolution? Effective date.
It says effective date is the day signed, so
Right,
it's
so
okay.
it does not apply to any.
Well, this clarifies it. That's fine. So that's acceptable to you, Robin, second? Okay.
Yes.
City council comments on the amendment? No comments. Citizen comments on the amendment? No comments. Back to council. This is a resolution, right? So, Patty, we have to do an individual vote. Please call. This is for the amendment only. It's not for the policy. This is just going to amend that policy, then we'll vote on the policy. That's for the 3 amendments. I'm not going to read them again. We just went through them.
Councilmember Aki,
Aye.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn,
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye, so it passes 7-0. That's for the amendments. We're now going to vote on that original resolution that we had, which is 2019-12, as amended by that last vote and last amendment. City Clerk?
Councilmember Aki,
Aye.
Councilmember Dean,
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn,
Aye.
Mayor Manto.
Aye, so it passes 7-0. That's in effect. I will not be able to sign that tonight because of the changes, right? So I'll just sign that as soon as we make those changes. I'll swing by and take care of it. Not a problem. Okay, we now inserted the reports from the Parks Board and the Planning Board. Is there anyone here from the Planning Board? I see no one. Okay, here's my issue, and I'm going to say it, okay? This council was very specific last month. We asked for monthly reports from the Planning Board on the assignment that was given to them. And I realized that Vice Mayor Gunn was very helpful in putting together kind of a help sheet for them, but we were pretty clear as to what we were looking for, certainly enough to get them going. 1 month has transpired, nothing has happened. That's disappointing to say the least, and I see nothing scheduled for this month. On top of that, I understand that there was grumbling in the audience afterwards and insults being hurled at council members, and that's unacceptable. So, Madam Clerk, please make sure that they are invited, the Planning Board, to the January 6th meeting to have a report ready for us as to what has happened.
Mayor, they have requested 2 meeting dates, and I believe Patty has sent that out. So, Mr. Enfield has not him specifically, but his wife has a health issue, and they did contact us, and they've sent out 2 dates to try to get a meeting in December.
Not a problem. There's multiple people on that committee, one of whom came here earlier and asked for my resignation. So I just want to make sure that this thing is moving along properly, and it's moving along because we have a time deadline, because the recommendations that come out of that committee go to the Finance Committee, may affect the charter, and all of this has to be done for the election schedule, which, as I recall, is August 11th. We need to have, if there are going to be any changes with our charter, or any matters that the voters have to agree on, and for example, let's say we decide we want to sell the White House, as we call it, the little storage facility that we have here, that needs to be approved by the voters, and that needs to be on the ballot. And it's not something that we're going to give to Fred Riley on August 10th and tell him to have it ready for the 11th. That's just not fair. So I want to make sure this moves along, and I'm going to. So thank you. Okay, City Parks Board. I see June Lansko. Are you prepared to, you weren't on the agenda, but do you wish to speak? Please come on.
Good evening. The Children's Holiday Party is scheduled for this Saturday at 10:30 a.m. We have Santa booked. The cookies are ordered. They'll be picked up prior to the event. Sprinkles, the whole 9 yards, without all the details. All the little details, all the things are in place and ready to go. The photographer is scheduled, and I have sent out an email to Kyle, because I got with the city manager, about the setup for the event. So I'm going to try to meet with him on Wednesday at 1 o'clock to do the setup of, we just go over how we want everything set up in the city hall. We are going to be packing the goodie bags, I guess, on Wednesday at 1:30. I'm assuming it'll be in here. If anybody would like to come and assist with that, no more than an hour is what it will take to do. Other than that, everything is going as planned. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a great thing. If anybody wants to come and they don't have children, Santa will step aside. There will be a holiday background, and you can get your photo taken with a holiday background for $10 by a professional photographer. So it's something to consider, even if you don't have children. So tell your neighbors, tell your friends, just come in and do the photo. Only if you come early, you don't probably have to deal with a lot of crowding. Come in and just get your photo taken for $10 with your family. You can't beat that. So.
And that money is going to the professional photographer, right? That's not the city. The city's not.
Yeah, the city does not get any of that money whatsoever. And of course, $10, if anybody's ever gone to get their pictures taken with Santa, my daughter paid $45 last year. So $10 is a great price.
The money that we raised from the festival is actually helping to pay for this, and some donations from some council members, some of our board members, some of our citizens. And I just want to say thank you to them for doing that.
I want to recognize them by name, the name of the donors.
Yes, Councilman Shirley, Councilman Aki, I'm sorry, it's very nice that they did this. Lisa Elia and her husband Fred. Let's see, of course, the photographer, help me out here. Jerry Lucas, donating his time for $10 a person. That's basically unheard of. Berg Serafian for securing the Santa Claus, and this is a real beard. He has a real beard. He's a professional Santa Claus, which is a great thing. It's so he was able to arrange that and secure that, and for the city clerk for helping us out with this event, and of course the Kyle Reefer. I don't know what his position title is, but thank you very much.
I think Stan Silver gave you something.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize too. Stan Sofer provided some containers and some crowns as well. I apologize, yes. And the containers actually are just, they're the to-go containers. He got them from his restaurant. We're gonna have the cookies pre-packed in there. The kids are just gonna open their container, decorate their cookie. We're gonna close it up and they're taking it home. So that way it keeps maybe some possible messes contained, and they just take it home. We'll put their name on the outside of the ornament that we're doing with little sparkles in it and stuff. Rebecca Hollis has agreed to work with the kids on doing that. She's actually created some funnels by hand for the kids to use to make the process go much easier as well. So I want to say thank you to them as well. Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question. Do you need anything else?
Well, we can always take volunteers. Many hands make light work. So if anybody would like to come down and help on Saturday morning at 10:30, that would be great. Anything you can help with, even, we are going to put out, once again, and I've already asked this, we are going to put out the list from the city to get more people signed up on the email list. So even if you're willing to come here and encourage people to get on the city's email list, you know, and work that, just basically even that would be great. Or to help the photographer, you know, get their contact information, or even Santa. We'll take some else. The event will actually be here in the council chambers. We're going to have all the, I want to say, cookie stuff at that end, away from any kind of electronics whatsoever, and the decorating of the ornaments down at that end of the hall as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Judy. All right, the next item then is the report from the city attorney.
My report's very short, and it's an update. Approximately 2 months ago, the city council tasked me with doing an evaluation of the city's insurance coverage for the elected officials and the board members, and assessing the places where there's potential for vulnerability for those individuals to be exposed to potential lawsuits. I worked on that over that period of time. I will tell the council I'm remiss in not being completed with the task yet, but it is my best intention to have that report to you before the end of this week.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have anything else? Any other?
Yes.
Anybody have any comments? Or any questions for the city attorney? City manager?
Yes, Mayor and Council, just to give you an update, the 3rd through 6th Street, the boxes and pipes have been delivered. They've started digging to put in the new stormwater boxes and piping. As of today, there's only one street left to take down the wires. And I called Councilmember Beam to find out if he had sent spectrum or not, but, because everywhere else, all it is a bunch of sticks. But they assured me today at 4 o'clock that they'll have them down this week. And then we'll get on the people with the pole removal. They were through there today, so hopefully that takes care of that. Mayor and Council, I appreciate the overall support the City Council has given me, and I enjoy the work I do for the City of Bel Beach. However, I have concerns with the continued hostility and interference in city operations by a member of this council and resident. Over the past several months, this has created a hostile work environment that I've discussed with several of the council members and the city attorney. I even proactively asked the city attorney to have a discussion with the council member after receiving the October 18, 2019 email, which I will provide you, from the Sheriff's Office to clarify the operation of the city, along with the understanding of the city manager form of government. To date, to no avail. This situation continues to happen in usurping the city manager form of government. I have provided a copy, or will provide in this packet, a copy of a legal opinion from the previous city attorney that provides the city manager is the chief executive officer, and his direction is from the city council as a whole, not from one individual. Over the past several months, as referenced in the documents I will provide, I have endured accusations, avoidance, harassment, and interference. The documentation I am providing will document some of those incidents that have occurred, to include contacting local agencies for the city, making purchases without approval, derogatory comments towards me and other staff, and to add to that comment, threats to me and my family. This situation has negatively affected and diverted staff resources from efficient daily operations of the city. Going forward, I will continue to do my job to the best of my abilities, taking care of the business of the city of Bel Air Beach. However, I cannot allow the hostile work environment and interference in city operations, and I'm going to name this person, created by the mayor, and the interference of Ms. Vance Floyd to continue for myself or the staff. And I've talked to several of you and told you about this over the last several months, and it's still continuing. And I feel that the council needs to step up as a group, and going forward, I'm going to listen to the council as a whole, not the council overall. Thank you. And that's all I have.
I have a question for you. Are you an attorney?
I'm not an attorney, I didn't say I was.
Oh, you're making the legal conclusion, sir. Mr. Riley? Sir, please prepare, when you have a chance, some information regarding the definition of a hostile work environment. Share that with this council, if you will. City Manager, I asked 4 times for a meeting with Tom Washburn. I have yet to be told about that meeting to deal with the traffic issues in this city. It is now going to be New Year's, and at the Outback Bowl, which gridlocked our city completely, is going to be held again. What's the status of our meeting with Mr. Washburn?
I have sent Mr. Washburn an email, which I can provide you to ask for that additional meeting, and I left him a voicemail. I have not received any additional information from him, nor anyone on his staff. As soon as I get some information, I'll be glad to provide that to you.
The initial meeting occurred, as I recall, in May of 2019, did it not? It did.
May or June.
Okay. And since then, the most that has been completed is they repainted the lines outside, but we've had no response to my proposal to expand the bridge, not physically, but by line changes. That would be the bridge outside our building here. No response to my proposal to toll or put some type of a toll mechanism on that bridge to decrease traffic flow. And now, no response to your proposal to do congestion pricing, correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay. So basically, let's say I started this right after I was elected. So basically, in 9 months, what we've managed to do with Tom Washburn, who's the county person who's in charge of this, has been to get the lines repainted, right?
He's repainted the lines in the do not block, which he sent us a proposal, I'll say late summer, and it was just done within the last month.
It was done after I called my source at the county and told him that it hadn't been done. So,
I don't know about that.
okay, well I do, because I made the call. Or actually I made the contact. So, the situation is this. The residents, particularly those who live north of the bridge, are going to be sitting in some monumental traffic jams because it seems Mr. Washburn isn't really putting all the time in that needs to be done on this, at least in 9 months. So what are we going to do about it? Because you don't want me to do anything, so you tell me how you're going to handle this.
I will contact Mr. Washburn or his supervisor.
Members of Bel Air Beach, Tom Washburn's direct number is 727-464-8804. 727-464-8804. If you have a problem with our traffic, you're a citizen, he's a county employee. Be respectful, let him know how much you appreciate what hasn't been done. Okay? This is unacceptable. Anything else, City Manager?
No, I'm done.
City Council comments. It's an even month. We start with Robin Mackey.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and everyone's looking forward to the holiday season where everyone's supposed to come together and cheer and kumbaya and happiness. And on that note, I appreciate everything you have done for this city, and I know you work hard, and I appreciate you. I just want you to know, you've never talked to me about any thoughts, but feel free to call me if you do. I'm happy to listen. I think that this council could work better together to make sure that we all get along and we are all on the same page. And I know frustrations can get high at times, so maybe we all need to make a better effort to not vent that out onto everyone else. So on that note, I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season, and I'll see you next year.
Thank you. Marvin?
Well, I'm dressed for the occasion.
I'd like to rest.
Let's try to be that way anyway. I know there's a lot of work that's been done by the city manager and by us, and there's a lot of things that have been neglected for years. And it seems like they've all come together at one time, and we can't do everything at once. So let's try to cut the tension if we can. The air's getting a little thick. Let's hope to thin it out a little bit, take it easy, enjoy the holidays, and come back with less tension in our lives. That's all I have for tonight. Outside of Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Dave Gaddis.
2019's been very productive for this council. I appreciate everyone's hard work, and I also appreciate the patience of the citizens of Bel Air Beach. We have much more to accomplish in 2020, including improvements on this council. I feel like we're headed in the right direction, but I still think that we have some wrinkles to iron out. That being said, thank you for coming, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, or whatever holiday you choose. We'll see you next year.
Joy Shirley?
So, Lynn and I are working on a couple of projects, and I know I pull him away from his job duties quite a bit with questions and what have you, and I appreciate that, and you've been very helpful. I completely support you, and I do believe that there are times when delivery can go a lot smoother with comments, and for that, if I've ever offended you, I apologize, but, and I would, you know, I would hope that everyone else would kind of take that position as well. I personally appreciate the time you spend with me before every meeting, and like I said, on these couple of special projects, you've been a tremendous help, and I thank you for that. And
Thank you.
anytime you need to reach out to me, feel free to. I feel your pain sometimes, so I understand. And then, you know, again, as council members, we're in a tough position up here. I think that, and same with staff, that residents should take a closer look at how they approach council members and staff members, because we're all just trying to we all have the same common goal, I believe. And moving forward, you know, I look forward to jumping in on some of these new committees and seeing the city's business get done. Merry Christmas, everyone.
You just spoke.
Yes, and I also want to let Lynn know you have done a tremendous job. And every time I've needed something or help, you've been there, as well as all of our city staff. Thank you, Patty, and your other employees. Tell them I said thank you and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and I'll see you next year.
Linda?
Lines of communication are really getting clogged up. And the fog of water, you know, the battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. Bel Air Beach, there are condo associations bigger than Bel Air Beach. Okay, so where are we in the pecking order when we deal with the county, the state, or whatever? We have to understand that sometimes we're not at the top of their priority list. My observations working with the city manager is he is a superior tactical guy. He can get this stuff done. I'll tell you what, when it comes to how many balls you can keep in the air at one time and leveraging his network, I've never seen a guy work as smoothly as Lynn Reeves. So we're getting off track here somewhere, and I'm not quite sure where it is. I think we need to rely on him to be our point of contact and our focal point in dealing with the county, the state, and a lot of these things. Let's use this guy. He is the chief executive of this city, and we're supposed to give him direction, not micromanage him, not try to reach out when we're frustrated because his dealings aren't yielding the fruit or the timeliness or the efficiencies that we expect or whatever. But let's give him a chance to deal with it accordingly, and let's keep the information flowing in both directions. The undergrounding in Bellevue Estates Island is stupendous. I mean, it's just, you drive down 22nd Street, you drive down Donato, that's what Bel Air Beach is supposed to look like. We're getting there slowly, and I think that's going to be the cookie cutter and the game book for Harrison and Howard and whoever's next or wants to. Because all we got to do is figure out how we're going to fund this thing and how we're going to do it, because I think we've kind of written the playbook and learned all the valuable lessons for the future projects. Christmas decorations look great. I think your staff did a great job in the front there. Keep up the great work. Kudos to them. Best practices, consent agenda. I think we're still trying to tweak this thing. I mean, the consent agenda for approval of your item probably should have been, in my estimate, a regular agenda item. These approval of the council minutes, those are the sorts of things that we're supposed to include the consent agenda. Kipling's honest serving, guys, what, why, when, how, where, who. We've talked about a little bullet in these things, and if you kind of ask yourself those questions and distill the pertinent information for us, we can save ourselves a lot of discussion. I mean, if you just had said, hey, you know, this is just the administrative detail, we're not bound by it, we can adjust it, there probably would have been a lot less discussion here tonight. And just keep those things in mind. Other than that, thanks.
I'm going to address partially some of the comments that were made by our city manager. I'm not going to get into too much detail. He's made a legal accusation. I take it quite seriously. And he's wrong. But that's nothing new. Mr. Reeves wants to send out paperwork to people on this council, and we've met with paperwork. I would suggest, in the interest of the holiday season, that you refrain from doing that, because I have paperwork too. I have paperwork about how you haven't done things that you're supposed to do. And this council's job is to oversee what you do. You manage the city, but you work for this council. And when I see, the sheriff is there tonight, but when I look out and I see no sheriff at our meetings, which sometimes can be contentious, that is a safety issue for this entire community. And if anybody thinks I'm not going to speak up on that when I ran on the premise of security and safety for the citizens, then you're wrong. It's amazing. So, Mr. Reeves, I'm going to offer you the olive branch. Send out your papers if you will, and they'll be met with papers. Or knock it off, and you and I will work together. You and I have tried to work together in the past. Every time I've extended that olive branch, I've had it rammed up my butt, and I'm getting tired of it. That's all I'm going to say. If you want detail, I'll give you detail. I'll give you detail about the Thursday after the election, how they were filing election complaints with the state election board while I was trying to make nice with him. I'll give you all the information you want. But I won't sit here and have my name besmirched because I'm trying to do well for this town, along with my girlfriend, Jim. I'm tired of it, and I'm tired of the personal attacks, so knock it off. With regard to security, any of you who haven't seen this article in the North Beach News, Where Have All the Sheriff's Deputies Gone? A very well-written article by Alex Pickett, and I encourage you to read it. I don't know Mr. Pickett, I've never met him and he didn't interview me, but he certainly got what I was trying to do. And he references how Ocala and Gainesville are doing the same thing that I proposed, and we didn't get to first base with it. Maybe our city will come along. Those are pretty impressive big cities. Finally, we talked about this 3,000-piece public records request. It's been going on since September 12th to be exact. I responded September 26th. I updated my response in October, I believe it was October 18th, and the city still, to this day, has not reached out to the requester. I'll tell you what the city did do. Took legal advice that Mr. Fred Riley gave me and copied only 2 other people on, Patty Gentry and Lynn Reeves, and leaked that information to the requester. So I'm to believe that the requester walked in and asked for Fred Riley's memo that contained Attorney General opinions. Now, how would the requester know that? Ask yourself, put your thinking caps on, and figure it out. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm not going to play the game anymore, okay? Oh, I'm not resigning. Don't get your hopes up, okay? But I am going to stop with the emails, okay? This is nonsense. There's no state law that requires me to do it. I've checked with Tallahassee. So effective immediately, beginning tomorrow, I've asked that my email be taken down from the city site. I will not respond to emails. I will not read emails. If you write to any of my emails, you will get a message back saying that it is no longer an actively monitored account. My friend, who happens to be a computer guy, said to me, well, how are you going to communicate? We're going to communicate the same way we did 20 years ago. Our city loves tradition. We're going to communicate with paper. We're going to communicate with a telephone. My telephone number will be on there, on the city website. Somebody can call, and I will speak with them as my time permits. Or you can write a letter. That letter will go to City Hall. It will be archived by our city clerk. It will be delivered to me, and then it will be responded to. Please put your telephone number. I will not most likely be writing. This is a voluminous records request. It has encompassed 3 months now. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Although legal, it's absolutely absurd that we have to go through this. I will be paid for my time that I put into this if I have to respond to it. And that's the city's decision how they want to do that. That's my position. With that said, I wish everybody who celebrates Christmas a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and any other holiday that you may celebrate. Please have a joyous holiday season. Peace to you and health to you in the new year. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second? Second. All in favor? We stand adjourned. Next meeting is January 6th.